If you're over 60 and struggling to maintain your muscle strength, what I'm about to share might completely change everything you thought you knew about building muscle mass. There's a fruit sitting in your kitchen right now that most people completely overlook, and recent clinical observations are showing something absolutely fascinating about how it affects muscle protein synthesis in older adults. I've seen patients who couldn't climb stairs without help regain their independence, and it all started with adding this one simple thing to their daily routine. My name is Dr. Susan Miller, and I'm a geriatric medicine specialist with over 20 years of experience helping older adults maintain their strength, mobility, and independence. Throughout my career, I've worked with thousands of patients facing age-related muscle loss, and I've witnessed firsthand how small dietary changes can lead to remarkable transformations in physical capability and quality of life. Before we dive in, if you haven't subscribed yet, I highly recommend hitting that subscribe button and turning on notifications so you never miss another health tip made especially for you. If you enjoy this video, please leave your questions and video suggestions in the comments below. I read every single one, and it helps me create more content to help people just like you. Let me tell you about something that happened in my clinic about 6 months ago that really opened my eyes to this. Mr. Richard Thompson walked into my office, 72 years old, a retired high school teacher from a small town in Ohio. Richard had been an active man his entire life, coaching baseball, gardening, playing with his grandchildren. But over the past 2 years, he noticed something terrifying happening to his body. His arms seemed thinner, his legs felt weaker, and simple tasks like carrying groceries or getting up from a chair became increasingly difficult. Richard told me, with tears in his eyes, that he felt like he was disappearing, like his body was betraying him. His wife had to help him with things he'd done independently his whole life. He'd stopped playing with his grandkids because he was afraid of falling. The psychological impact was devastating. He felt like he was becoming a burden to his family, and his sense of identity as a strong, capable man was crumbling. When I examined Richard, I found what we call sarcopenia, which is the medical term for age-related muscle loss. This is one of the most common and serious conditions I see in my practice. Yet it's something most people don't even know exists until it starts affecting their lives. After age 30, we naturally start losing 3 to 5% of our muscle mass per decade, and this loss accelerates significantly after age 60. But here's what most people don't understand. This isn't just about aesthetics or strength. Loss of muscle mass is directly linked to increased risk of falls, fractures, loss of independence, decreased metabolic rate, insulin resistance, and even mortality. Now, Richard's story gets interesting because what happened next surprised both of us. We discussed various interventions, including resistance training and dietary modifications. But when I mentioned incorporating more potassium-rich fruits into his diet, specifically bananas, he looked at me skeptically. A banana? That simple yellow fruit was going to help him rebuild muscle? It seemed too easy, too simple to make a real difference. But let me explain exactly what's happening at a cellular level that makes this so powerful. When we talk about building and maintaining muscle, most people immediately think about protein. And yes, protein is absolutely crucial. But there's another piece of the puzzle that's often completely overlooked: the role of potassium in muscle protein synthesis and muscle cell hydration. Potassium is one of the most important minerals for muscle function, and here's why this matters so much, especially as we age. Every single muscle contraction in your body depends on proper potassium levels. Potassium works together with sodium to create electrical gradients across cell membranes, which is what allows your muscles to contract and relax properly. Without adequate potassium, your muscles literally cannot function optimally. But it goes even deeper than that. Potassium plays a critical role in something called protein synthesis. Inside your muscle cells, adequate potassium levels help create the optimal environment for building new muscle proteins. When potassium levels are low, even if you're eating plenty of protein, your body struggles to actually use that protein to build and repair muscle tissue. It's like having all the building materials for a house but no workers to put it together. Additionally, potassium helps maintain proper muscle cell hydration. Well-hydrated muscle cells are anabolic, meaning they're in a state that promotes muscle growth and prevents breakdown. Dehydrated muscle cells, on the other hand, trigger catabolic processes that break down muscle tissue. Studies have shown that maintaining proper cellular hydration through adequate potassium intake can significantly impact muscle mass preservation, especially in older adults. Now, here's where bananas become particularly interesting. One medium banana contains approximately 420 milligrams of potassium, which is about 12% of the daily recommended intake. But it's not just the potassium content that makes bananas special for muscle health. Bananas also contain easily digestible carbohydrates, which provide quick energy for muscle cells and help restore glycogen stores after physical activity. If you're still watching and finding this information useful, comment a heart below to show me you're following along. I love hearing from you, and it helps me know what content is most valuable. Let me share another case that really illustrates this point. Mrs. Eleanor Martinez, 68 years old, a retired nurse from Texas, came to see me complaining of chronic fatigue and weakness. Eleanor had always been dedicated to healthy eating, but she'd recently started a very low-carbohydrate diet because she'd read it was good for weight loss. She'd cut out most fruits, including bananas, thinking they had too much sugar. Eleanor told me she felt weaker every day, that her muscles felt soft and flabby despite not having gained weight. She said, "Dr. Miller, I'm eating all this protein. I'm trying to do everything right, but I feel like I'm wasting away." She'd stopped doing her morning walks because she felt too tired, and she noticed she was losing muscle definition in her arms and legs. When we ran her blood work, I found that her potassium levels were in the low normal range. Not quite deficient enough to be medically concerning in the traditional sense, but definitely suboptimal for maintaining muscle mass. I explained to Eleanor that by cutting out fruits like bananas, she'd inadvertently created a situation where her body couldn't effectively utilize all that protein she was eating. We made a simple change. I asked Eleanor to add 2 bananas to her daily diet, one in the morning before her walk and one after any physical activity. Within just 3 weeks, Eleanor reported feeling noticeably stronger. Her energy improved, her muscles felt firmer, and she was able to walk further and faster than she had in months. After 3 months, she'd regained muscle definition and told me she felt like she'd turned back the clock 5 years. But if that surprised you, wait until you hear about the timing aspect of this. When you consume bananas matters almost as much as simply eating them. The carbohydrates in bananas have what's called a moderate glycemic index, which means they provide sustained energy without causing dramatic blood sugar spikes. This makes them ideal for consumption around physical activity. Eating a banana 30 to 60 minutes before resistance training or physical activity provides your muscles with readily available energy, allowing you to exercise more intensely and for longer periods. The potassium helps prevent muscle cramps during exercise, which is especially important for older adults who may be more prone to cramping. After exercise, consuming a banana helps replenish glycogen stores and provides the potassium necessary for optimal muscle recovery and protein synthesis. There's also another compound in bananas that most people don't know about, an amino acid called tryptophan. Tryptophan is a precursor to serotonin, which helps regulate mood and sleep. Quality sleep is absolutely critical for muscle recovery and growth, because most muscle repair and protein synthesis happens during deep sleep. By improving sleep quality, bananas indirectly support better muscle maintenance and growth. Let me tell you about Mr. James Wilson, 75 years old, a retired mechanic from Michigan. James came to me not because he was concerned about his muscles, but because he was having trouble sleeping. He'd wake up multiple times throughout the night with muscle cramps in his calves and couldn't get back to sleep. The chronic sleep deprivation was affecting everything: his mood, his energy, his ability to stay active during the day. James had tried various over-the-counter sleep aids, but nothing seemed to help consistently. When I learned about his nighttime muscle cramps and did a thorough dietary assessment, I discovered he was eating very few fruits and vegetables. His potassium intake was quite low, and I suspected this was contributing to both his muscle cramps and his sleep problems. I suggested he eat a banana about an hour before bedtime. James looked at me like I was crazy. "A banana? That's your big solution?" he said with a laugh. But he trusted me enough to try it. Within a week, his nighttime leg cramps had significantly decreased. Within 2 weeks, he was sleeping through the night more consistently. And here's the beautiful domino effect. Better sleep led to more energy during the day, which meant he could be more physically active, which led to better muscle maintenance and improved overall health. 3 months later, James told me something that really struck me. He said, "Dr. Miller, I thought I was just getting old, and this was how life was supposed to feel. I didn't realize that something as simple as a banana could make such a difference. I feel like I have my life back." Now, let's talk about something that often gets overlooked in discussions about muscle health in older adults: the connection between muscle mass and metabolic health. Muscle tissue is metabolically active, meaning it burns calories even at rest. When you lose muscle mass, your metabolic rate decreases, which makes it easier to gain fat and harder to maintain a healthy weight. This creates a vicious cycle. Less muscle leads to lower metabolism, which leads to weight gain, which makes it harder to be active, which leads to further muscle loss. The potassium and carbohydrates in bananas support not just muscle protein synthesis, but also insulin sensitivity. Better insulin sensitivity means your body can more effectively shuttle nutrients, including amino acids from protein, into muscle cells. This is particularly important for older adults, who often experience decreased insulin sensitivity as part of the aging process. I had a patient, Mrs. Dorothy Chen, 70 years old, a retired accountant from California, who perfectly exemplified this metabolic connection. Dorothy had been gradually gaining weight over the past 5 years, despite eating less than she used to. She felt frustrated and confused. "I'm eating like a bird," she told me, "but the weight keeps creeping up, and I feel weaker and more tired all the time." When we analyzed her body composition, I found that Dorothy had lost significant muscle mass while gaining fat mass. Her metabolism had slowed considerably because she had less metabolically active muscle tissue. She was caught in that vicious cycle I mentioned. We implemented a comprehensive plan that included resistance training twice a week and specific dietary modifications, including adding 2 to 3 bananas per day timed around her exercise sessions. The results were remarkable. Over 6 months, Dorothy not only stopped gaining weight, but actually lost 12 pounds of fat while gaining 4 pounds of muscle. Her energy improved dramatically, her strength increased, and she told me she felt more capable and confident than she had in years. She said, "I thought aging meant inevitable decline, but now I realize I have more control than I thought." Now, I want to address something important, because I know some of you might be thinking, what about the sugar in bananas? Won't that cause problems? This is a common concern, and it's worth addressing directly. Yes, bananas do contain natural sugars, primarily fructose, glucose, and sucrose. A medium banana has about 14 grams of sugar. However, the sugar in whole fruits like bananas comes packaged with fiber, vitamins, minerals, and phytonutrients that modulate how that sugar is absorbed and metabolized. The fiber in bananas, particularly resistant starch when the banana is slightly green, slows down sugar absorption and prevents dramatic blood sugar spikes. For most people, including those with well-controlled type 2 diabetes, moderate banana consumption as part of a balanced diet does not cause problematic blood sugar elevations. In fact, the sustained energy from bananas can help prevent the blood sugar crashes that lead to cravings and overeating. However, I always tell my patients that context matters. If you have diabetes or prediabetes, it's important to monitor your blood sugar response and work with your healthcare provider to determine the right amount and timing of fruit consumption for your individual situation. Some people do better with smaller, greener bananas that have more resistant starch and less simple sugar. Others tolerate ripe bananas perfectly well when consumed with a source of protein or healthy fat. Let me share the story of Mr. Frank Rodriguez, 67 years old, a retired postal worker from Florida with type 2 diabetes. Frank was initially hesitant to add bananas to his diet because his previous doctor had told him to avoid all fruit. He was eating a very restrictive diet, and while his blood sugar was reasonably controlled, he felt weak, tired, and was continuing to lose muscle mass. I explained to Frank that completely eliminating fruit wasn't necessary for most people with diabetes and might actually be counterproductive. We started slowly, adding half of a medium banana after his morning resistance training session, paired with some Greek yogurt for protein. We monitored his blood sugar carefully, and to his surprise, his post-exercise blood sugars actually improved because the banana helped replenish his muscle glycogen stores and prevented the stress hormone response that can occur with prolonged low blood sugar. Over time, we gradually increased to one full banana after exercise. Frank's muscle mass began to improve, his energy increased, and his overall diabetes control actually got better because he had more muscle tissue to help regulate blood sugar. Frank told me, "I spent years thinking I had to deprive myself of everything I enjoyed to manage my diabetes. Learning that I could actually eat fruit and feel better was life-changing." If you're finding these stories helpful and informative, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Have you experienced muscle loss as you've gotten older? What strategies have worked for you? Your experiences might help someone else watching this video. Now let's talk about something that many of my patients ask about. How many bananas should you actually eat, and when? There's no one-size-fits-all answer because everyone's nutritional needs, activity levels, and health conditions are different. However, I can give you some general guidelines based on what I typically recommend in my practice. For most older adults looking to support muscle maintenance and growth, I generally suggest 1 to 3 medium bananas per day, with timing strategically placed around physical activity. One banana 30 to 60 minutes before resistance training or significant physical activity can provide energy and help prevent muscle cramps. Another banana within an hour after exercise can support recovery and glycogen replenishment. For those who experience nighttime muscle cramps or sleep difficulties, a banana an hour before bedtime can be beneficial. It's also important to remember that bananas shouldn't be your only source of potassium. A varied diet that includes other potassium-rich foods like sweet potatoes, spinach, avocados, white beans, and yogurt ensures you're getting adequate potassium along with other important nutrients. The goal is dietary diversity, not reliance on any single food. I want to share one more story that really touches on the holistic benefits of this simple dietary change. Mrs. Barbara Anderson, 69 years old, a retired librarian from Oregon, came to see me feeling depressed and isolated. She'd stopped participating in her book club, stopped meeting friends for walks, stopped doing the activities she loved because she felt too weak and tired. She was embarrassed by how much she'd declined physically. Barbara's daughter had brought her to the appointment, and I could see the concern in both their faces. Barbara told me, "Dr. Miller, I feel like I'm disappearing. I don't recognize myself anymore. I used to be so active, so engaged with life, and now I can barely make it through the day." The emotional impact of her physical decline was profound, affecting every aspect of her life. We implemented a comprehensive approach that included gentle resistance training, walking, and significant dietary modifications, including adding bananas before her walks and after any strength exercises. But what happened over the next 4 months wasn't just physical transformation. As Barbara's strength improved, so did her confidence. As her energy increased, she started reconnecting with friends. As her muscles grew stronger, her mood lifted. 6 months after our first appointment, Barbara walked into my office looking like a different person. She was standing taller, moving with confidence, and had a genuine smile on her face. She told me, "I joined a new walking group, I'm back at book club, and I even started volunteering at the library again. I feel like I got my life back." Her daughter hugged me and said through tears, "You gave me my mother back." This is what I want you to understand. Maintaining muscle mass as we age isn't just about vanity or physical capability, although those things certainly matter. It's about maintaining independence, confidence, quality of life, and connection with the people and activities we love. It's about being able to play with grandchildren, travel, pursue hobbies, and continue living life on our own terms rather than being limited by physical decline. The science behind how bananas support muscle health is fascinating, but what really matters are the real-world results I see in my patients' lives every single day. Simple, accessible, affordable dietary changes can have profound impacts on health, function, and well-being. Now, I want to be very clear about something important. While bananas can be a valuable part of a muscle-supporting nutrition strategy, they're not a magic solution on their own. Building and maintaining muscle mass, especially as we age, requires a multifaceted approach. Adequate protein intake is absolutely essential. Older adults typically need more protein than younger people, often around 1.2 to 1.6 grams per kilogram of body weight per day. Resistance training is also crucial. You cannot maintain muscle mass through diet alone, no matter how perfectly you eat. Your muscles need the stimulus of resistance exercise to trigger protein synthesis and muscle growth. The good news is that even gentle resistance training, using light weights, resistance bands, or even body weight exercises, can be highly effective when done consistently. Sleep quality, stress management, hydration, and overall dietary quality all play important roles as well. Bananas can support each of these factors in various ways, but they work best as part of a comprehensive lifestyle approach rather than as an isolated intervention. I also want to address some potential concerns. While bananas are safe and healthy for most people, there are some situations where you need to be cautious. If you have chronic kidney disease, your doctor may have advised you to limit potassium intake because damaged kidneys can't effectively remove excess potassium from the blood. If you're taking certain medications, particularly ACE inhibitors or potassium-sparing diuretics, you need to be mindful of your total potassium intake and discuss appropriate amounts with your healthcare provider. Some people may experience digestive discomfort from bananas, particularly if they have irritable bowel syndrome or fructose malabsorption. If you experience bloating, gas, or other digestive issues after eating bananas, it's worth discussing with your doctor whether they're the right choice for you or if alternative potassium-rich foods might be better tolerated. Let me tell you one final story that I think really brings all of this together. Mr. George Patterson, 81 years old, a retired engineer from Pennsylvania, came to see me after a fall that resulted in a hip fracture. George had been slowly declining for years, losing muscle mass, becoming more sedentary, feeling weaker and more frail. The fall was a wake-up call, not just for him but for his entire family. After his surgery and initial recovery, George was determined not to become the frail, dependent elderly person he feared becoming. Despite his age, despite his recent trauma, he wanted to rebuild his strength and independence. I'll be honest, I was initially concerned about how much recovery was realistic for someone his age after such a serious injury. We developed a careful rehabilitation plan that included physical therapy, progressive resistance training, and specific nutritional strategies, including regular banana consumption to support his recovery and muscle rebuilding. George approached it with remarkable dedication. He told me, "Dr. Miller, I don't know how much time I have left, but I want to spend it being strong and independent, not sitting in a chair waiting to die." 1 year after his hip fracture, George had not only recovered, but had actually gained muscle mass and strength compared to before his injury. At 82 years old, he was stronger than he'd been at 75. He was walking 3 miles several times a week, doing regular strength training and living independently with confidence. He told me, "That fall was the worst and best thing that happened to me. It scared me enough to finally take my health seriously, and now I feel better than I have in a decade." George's story illustrates something I want every person watching this video to understand. It's never too late. Age-related muscle loss is not inevitable and irreversible. Yes, we face challenges as we age, and yes, we have to work harder to maintain muscle mass than we did when we were younger. But with the right approach, combining proper nutrition, including strategic use of foods like bananas, with consistent resistance training and healthy lifestyle habits, remarkable improvements are possible at any age. So, what should you do with this information? First, I want you to understand that I'm not suggesting bananas are some miracle food that will solve all your muscle-related concerns, but they are a simple, affordable, accessible tool that can support your muscle health goals when used as part of a comprehensive approach. If you're concerned about age-related muscle loss, start by talking with your healthcare provider. Get a thorough assessment of your current muscle mass, strength, and overall health status. Discuss whether increasing your potassium intake through foods like bananas is appropriate for your individual situation, particularly if you have kidney disease, diabetes, or take medications that affect potassium levels. Consider incorporating 1 to 2 bananas per day into your routine, particularly around physical activity. Experiment with timing to see what works best for your body. Some people feel best eating a banana before exercise, while others prefer consuming it afterward. Prioritize resistance training at least 2 to 3 times per week. This doesn't have to mean joining a gym or lifting heavy weights. Body weight exercises, resistance bands, or light dumbbells can be highly effective, especially when you're just starting. Work with a physical therapist or qualified trainer who has experience working with older adults to develop a safe, effective program. Make sure you're eating adequate protein throughout the day. Good sources include lean meats, fish, eggs, dairy products, legumes, and nuts. Spread your protein intake across all meals rather than consuming most of it at dinner. Pay attention to your overall diet quality. Eat plenty of colorful vegetables, various fruits, whole grains, healthy fats, and adequate fluids. A varied, nutrient-dense diet supports muscle health in ways that go beyond any single nutrient or food. Get adequate sleep, aiming for 7 to 9 hours per night. Remember that most muscle recovery and growth happens during sleep, so sleep quality directly affects your muscle health. Manage stress through techniques like meditation, deep breathing, gentle yoga, or activities you find relaxing and enjoyable. Chronic stress produces hormones that break down muscle tissue and interfere with muscle protein synthesis. Stay consistent. Building and maintaining muscle is a long-term commitment, not a quick fix. Small, consistent actions repeated over time create dramatic results. I want to leave you with this final thought. The decline many people associate with aging isn't entirely inevitable. Much of what we call aging is actually the result of disuse and poor nutrition, rather than the passage of time itself. By taking simple, consistent actions to support your muscle health, you're not just adding years to your life, but adding life to your years. Your muscles are the foundation of your mobility, independence, and quality of life. They deserve your attention and care. And sometimes, that care can be as simple as adding a banana to your daily routine. If you found this information helpful, please give this video a thumbs up and share it with anyone who might benefit from this information. Leave your questions, experiences, and video suggestions in the comments below. I read every comment and use your feedback to create content that truly helps you. Remember, the best time to start taking care of your muscle health was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. Take that first step, talk to your doctor, add those bananas to your routine, start some gentle resistance training, and begin your journey towards stronger, healthier muscles and a more vibrant, independent life. You have more power over your health and aging than you might think, and I'm here to help guide you on that journey. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video where we'll discuss more strategies for healthy aging and maintaining your vitality and independence throughout your later years.